Look, I think you have to look at this deal in two parts. I think from a political perspective, we have to remember this deal came into force at a time when the trade war was raging. There was a tit for tat, an escalatory ladder that was engaged. And this deal did put a floor underneath that slide. And, that held quite firmly until the spring of 2020 when pandemic politics began to increase toxicity. So on the political level, Becky, I think it was a good deal. It did what it was designed to do. Economically, not so much, Becky. I mean, the $200 billion in purchases over 2 years was really never going to be achieved by China. And this was even before the pandemic. So the pandemic, in some ways, gave China an out here. But I think, as we heard in the previous report, the real question is what happens next. And this deal was largely about purchase agreements primarily. It did not address any of the underlying structural issues in the economic relationship, Becky. The need for greater intellectual protection, the need to ensure that companies get a fair shake and that there's not so many subsidies going to state-owned enterprises, and the non-tariff barriers that we see consistently in China, a large array of them. So I suspect that what the Biden administration will do is try and use this deal and the fact that China has done so poorly in achieving it to leverage a conversation for the next round in hopes to get some of those things that was not in the phase one deal, Becky. But I'm not optimistic. In fact, the Chinese economy is even more centrally planned, even more state-led than it was before this deal. So I think this is going to be a tough road ahead, Becky.
If the phase one was unrealistic, I mean, you said at the beginning, phase one was unrealistic. What's the point in creating a second idealistic, unrealistic goal to kind of jump through again? What are we just kind of patching things over, pretending that we're going to keep things nice and steady between the relations between the countries?
That's a good question. Look, I think, in fact, what we're likely to see, Becky, is that the Chinese won't really budge at all on some of these structural issues. But what the U.S., what the Biden administration will be able to do with that intransigence is say to our European allies and other like-minded countries, look, we've been talking, we've been trying. You have some of these same issues. And so we need to really work together to try and pressure China. I think it may also, Becky, help to justify some of our turn towards industrial policies in this country as we compete against China. But I think they will try, but I do not think that we will get very far with respect to some of those structural issues, Becky.